Steelers-Browns, Thursday night game between two division rivals with some goofy-ass quarterbacks. Just about anything can happen when you have Mitch Trubisky and Jacoby Brissett starting a game, but definitely interesting to talk about. So, obviously, the Steelers team coming off of a close loss to the New England Patriots, a game where they just could not really find an offense to save their life. And they kind of let down their defense, which might be a theme this year. We'll see. This offense, right, there were some quotes this week from their wide receivers talking about how their coordinator and their scheme just isn't literally letting them run routes down the field, and they're right about that. This offense it's almost like they are handicapping themselves because they don't trust Mitch Trubisky to such a crazy extent, right? And while I do understand that because I more or less agree with them to the ability of Mitch Trubisky, when you do that, right, handicapping yourself is you're guaranteeing that you can't run an offense, and that's going to hurt them if they continue to do so. I don't expect them to change it this early in the season. I think it's going to keep catching up with them. But that being said, there are still ways that offense can win, and we'll get into what that looks like in this game, right? So this Browns defense, or this Browns team, obviously coming off of a goofy, is one word, loss to the Jets, game that they had very much in hand and ended up very much not the winners of. Now, there were some things in that game that are going to get lost in that crazy 2-minute comeback, which is that especially their defense was really giving up yardage and space the entirety of the game. They were getting bailed out by some red zone turnovers and the fact that Joe Flacco is still pretty bad as a quarterback. But the fact, however many yards he still ended up with is really a testament to how much this defense struggled and how bad they are without Myles Garrett on the field. He, of course, missed the last two drives of that game outside of like one or two plays, and we'll see what he looks like, coming back into this one. But there's some issues here for sure. So what do they look like in this game? Well, first of all, can the Steelers run the ball? As a rule, not really, no. Their offensive line isn't built for it. They do not scheme it very well. They don't really look to use the run game the same way most other teams do. And now this is more Ben Roethlisberger, where they relied more on short screens, short passes, and that type of thing. But still a symptom that is showing up in this offense with Trubisky, and something that does concern me, right? You look at their offensive line, like I said, their guards are pretty good. They can handle stuff to a point, but their tackles are just way, way more pass protectors than they are run blockers, and Mason Cole is still kind of a bad player. So what does that look like in the Browns? Well, the Browns still, even with no Jadeveon Clowney in this game, which does hurt, have a really pretty good front seven. Myles Garrett, probably the best edge defending in the league, if not way in the top 3 or 4, incredibly good. Their replacements on the other side, whether it's Isaac Rochelle, Alex Wright. Well, Isaac Rochelle specifically is good as a run defender. He's been there with the Colts, with the Chargers previously. Alex Wright, I think a second-round pick, maybe a third-rounder, has been one of the absolute worst edge players in football. He just doesn't do anything. Now, he is a rookie. We'll see if he gets better. I have to see it first. Isaiah Thomas just got on the field last week and didn't really show anything in a small snap count. But between Rochelle and Garrett, I think they can handle, at least on the edge. And on the interior, while Jordan Elliott hasn't developed like they hoped he would, Taven Bryan is kind of whatever. And Tommy Togiai, rotates in there is kind of okay as a fat guy. They're still strong enough that, like I said, with the struggles the Steelers have, I don't expect a lot. And the linebackers, Anthony Walker specifically, are still pretty high end. So not a ton there. But more importantly, of course, can the Steelers throw the ball? Well, they're, of course, going to be limited by Mitch Trubisky. Just as a rule, he's never going to be good consistently. He struggles reading any type of defense. He throws the ball wildly inaccurately half the time. And he does hurt your offense for sure. But with all the negativity there is I have about the Steelers' offense and the fact that they are not letting their good receivers win down the field in ways that would help their offense a lot more than I think they seem to realize. What they do with all these rollouts, short bullshit type passes, is they do create a floor where they are giving their receivers the chance to get the ball in their hands quicker and win that way. And sometimes that does work out, and especially with a player as good as Deontay Johnson. Listen, Deontay Johnson is really, really good. I think a lot of people know that, but he killed the Patriots last week. His production, of course, hampered by the quarterback, but he's still open all the time. George Pickens, he's been okay so far. In his rookie year, I think the signs are there that he's going to end up being pretty good, but he's not this crazy separator, especially at this point. And, Chase Claypool, I'm not a fan of really, but he's clearly shown at some points at least he does have the ability to win down the field and run pretty fast in a straight line. So this Browns pass defense, right, which they're matching up with, they were not good last week, which is it's really interesting because you actually look at the individual talent around here, and I think they're so close to being really, really, really good, right? Their corners are all good. Denzel Ward is very high end. Greg Newsome can play. Martin Emerson, despite having rookie struggles, not looking as good last week as he did in week one. I actually still have faith as far as rookie corners go that he can play and be on an NFL field. And their safety, specifically John Johnson, are really good. What their problem was and is going to continue to be is that their only source of pass rush is Myles Garrett. When he's not on the field, like he wasn't at the end of the Jets game last week, they just suck at getting after the quarterback. And Myles Garrett, he's going to play in this game, but he might be a little bit injured or limited by that same injury, and he can't play every snap and be as effective. And they're going to struggle, especially in this game, even when he's off the field. Like I said, their defensive tackles, Jordan Elliott, Taven Bryan, they just haven't developed the way that the teams that drafted them thought they were going to. And while they're not horrible, they don't win at any type of consistent level. And while Mason Cole specifically, but even the guards of the Steelers can be vulnerable to getting or to allowing pressure into the backfield, it's not really going to come that much in this game. And their tackles are good. Dan Moore, Chukwuma Okorafor can both pass protect really well. And while, yes, they will get their ass whipped by Myles Garrett just like anybody else will, at times that is not going to be every single snap. And like I mentioned before, Alex Wright has been horrible. He just doesn't do anything when he's trying to pass rush. Isaac Rochelle is not a pass rusher at all. He's shown that over multiple years in his career. And Isaiah Thomas, barely played and as a rookie. So you're going to run into the same thing where no matter how good these corners are, with NFL receivers, especially the caliber of Deontay Johnson, you just can't cover them for 4, 5, 6 seconds, no matter the circumstance, really. And that's going to come into play here. So I love Deontay Johnson in this game. George Pickens even, like I said, all these guys, really, they can win over the course of a play, which I think Mitch Trubisky and the Steelers offense are going to have the chance at in this game. So I like their offense a lot. I think 23 to 30 points. Now, that's as high as I will ever predict Mitch Trubisky offense to go because, listen, he's still going to be super inaccurate. He's still going to make bad reads, that type of stuff. But even the scheme of the Browns where they play really heavy man and don't blitz a ton or very creatively does lead to easier reads for a guy like Trubisky because he's not trying to read defenders coming from every which way in all these crazy zones, right? He's just, oh, hey, my receiver there is winning, or hey, my receiver there isn't winning. And he can do that at the very least. So can the Browns keep up with that? Well, last week, they were really good on the ground against a pretty pretty good on the ground against a pretty good Jets front seven. But they were not quite the complete dominant force that they were a couple years ago. I think the loss of Corey Linsley at center, the fact that Jack Conklin hasn't been in until probably this game, has been the difference there. Now, they do get Jack Conklin back. And don't get me wrong, when all these guys are ready, healthy, between Jedrick Wills, Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, and Jack Conklin, they are elite players at each of those positions, especially in the run game. And because of that talent, they do win at a baseline of success no matter what. But Jack Conklin coming off of an injury, I don't trust to immediately get back to that spot. And let's be really clear, this Steelers defense, front seven specifically, even without TJ Watt, is still really good. I mean, those 6 on the defensive line are all real winners, especially the top 3, Ogunjobi, Alualu, and Cam Hayward are all huge, big-time space eaters. They make plays in the backfield. They get past guys. They're all really, really good. And for as good as I think the Browns' line is, they are vulnerable to that. And Alex Highsmith is one of the players I've been by far most impressed with their development this year. He always kind of clearly knew how to play discipline and play well, but this year he's been winning. He's been actually shedding offensive linemen, making plays, being just a really good player overall. And that matters a lot in this game because I trust him on the edge. Malik Reed, who they brought over from the Broncos, he's shown why he's a valuable player. He's not anything special and not necessarily a long-term starter, but especially in a game like this where you're just asking him to be strong and be tough on the edge, he can do that. So there's really not a lot of space. And then you talk about Devin Bush, Miles Jack, and Robert Spillane as all pretty high-end linebackers with real playmaking ability who are going to be able to make plays because the front 3, 5, whatever of the Steelers keeps them so clean that I don't trust this Browns running game to be that incredible. Now, like I said, there's a baseline of success from how good their offensive line is, for how smart Stefanski is with how he runs the ball, and for how good Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are. They are always going to have chances at big plays, no matter what. That is the case here too. It is way more limited than it is in other games, and in 2022, that type of football, you have to be so good at it to really win consistently, and that's not the case here. So, can they throw the ball? Well, they still have Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, so the general answer is no. it's tough, right? So last week, there was a lot more space against the Jets than Jacoby Brissett took advantage of. Even despite Amari Cooper's stat line, he was open way more than that even. He could have gotten, a Stephon Diggs type game off. But he's just limited because of how just slow and bad Jacoby Brissett is. He makes reads really, really slow. If it's not off play action, he's probably not going to be successful. And while they do give him a lot of that, in this game where the run game is not going to be working to that crazy point, I really struggle to see him having success as a drop back passer, especially because the Steelers' pass defense, while they are kind of bad in some areas, they have some ability specifically into this game too. Like I said, that they're going to have some pass rush just because of how good the Steelers' front is, and Jack Conklin, coming off an injury, we'll see how that goes. And Minkah Fitzpatrick is probably the number one coverage safety to pick into a scheme like the Browns as far as a guy who can react, like I said, to play action, to crossers around the middle of the field, to receivers outside of Amari Cooper who are really just running routes and not winning themselves. He can be really dangerous, especially as slow as Jacoby Brissett makes decisions and throws the ball. Once you get down the field, he is really, really dangerous in this game. And while, yes, the Steelers' corners still kind of suck sometimes. Ahkello Witherspoon's still really bad. Levi Wallace, fine, but nothing special. And they will lose, especially to Amari Cooper. It's not to this crazy extent. And as I kind of got at with the other side of the ball, scheme matters, right? And the Steelers just do way different things than any other team in the NFL besides kind of the Ravens do. And when players can't play into that, they're not very good. We've seen that with the Steelers being such a good defense for such a long time because they don't let bad quarterbacks beat them because they don't understand what's happening and what they're looking at, and that is the case here. These big, rangy linebackers in the middle between Miles Jack and Devin Bush, really good. Even Robert Spillane, really good in coverage. They can make plays around the ball, and I just really struggle to see how this Browns offense has any level of success in this game with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, even without TJ Watt. So I had them at 10 to 17 points, which is really just a credit to how crazy good I think their offensive line and Nick Chubb specifically are. Even Stefanski, I trust a little bit, but it gets really tough when you can't throw the ball. And so I'm actually pretty comfortable with the Steelers winning this game. Mitch Trubisky is still bad, which I'm not like crazy 100% about it, but they're real tools for success for the Patriots. And then for the Browns, it's tough to see unless Brissett plays like a completely different player, which, not going to happen. So betting-wise, Pittsburgh +4, I love it. I do understand why that line is the way it is because no TJ Watt and because Trubisky. But listen, this Browns team, they barely beat a really bad Panthers team. They lost to a really bad Jets team, or actually Jets might not be that bad, but a not so good Jets team. And the Steelers, they have things going for them, at least more at this point in the season than the Browns do. And then the over/under, actually, this number is so low. I kind of like the over. I think the Steelers might get kind of close to this by themselves. And both these quarterbacks are turnover prone to a point where you could see some short fields and some pick sixes, that type of shit. That boosts this number up, although I'm not crazy about it. So betting-wise, so far this year, Steelers I feel pretty good about. They've been right on the margin with all their games, so I'm not going to go crazy either way about them. And with the Browns, I am 1-3 in strong bets, but, a lot of that did come down to those crazy-ass Jets come back in the last part of that game last week. And overall, I've been very accurate on the Browns for like 3 years, so I'm still pretty comfortable where I am with them. But yeah, I like the Steelers a lot in this game, and that's Thursday Night Football.